Hey everyone, this is Dayu from EcommOps. Today I'm talking about the top 5 supply chain mistakes that I see experienced dropshippers or e-commerce store owners make when fulfilling from China when they're maybe at 6 figures and trying to scale up to 7 figures. And it's kind of a shame really, right? I see a lot of folks who have the marketing down, they have winning products, they have the processes down, only to be held back or even have their business implode because of a bad supply chain. Now this is a little bit more focused towards experienced folks, but even if you're new, watch this as well because hopefully you'll get there someday, right? Now, just a quick announcement. I am going to slow down the YouTube launches for a couple months because I really want to focus on creating more valuable free content within our Facebook group. I feel like I've been neglecting a little bit. If you haven't joined our Facebook group already, the EcommOps Facebook group, check below, join, and look forward to see a lot more content within that group. The first mistake and a foundational mistake that I see a lot of people make is not seeing it as a real supply chain. You probably started just dropshipping from AliExpress or CJ, whatever, and that's great actually. I mean, it's a great way to test products and it's a great way to get started. However, as you're actually scaling up, as you're trying to get to 6-7 figures, you really need to see it as an actual supply chain. The traditional dropshipping model doesn't scale very well. You have no control of your inventory, so you don't really know if stuff's gonna break down as you go up in volume. Right when you don't want stuff to go wrong, by the way, you have very little control of your product quality and everything like that. So it's very hard for you to stand out and differentiate yourself through customization and branding from your competitors. And look, if you're hitting 6 figures right now and you're scaling up, you're most likely seeing this as a real business, seeing your store, seeing your marketing as your real business, and probably hiring people as well. So why don't you actually see fulfillment and sourcing and all that as a real part of your business, as a real supply chain? It's really important that you change your mindset once you get to this point and think about that. Mistake number 2 as you're scaling up is evaluating suppliers based on the wrong factors. If you're a dropshipper and you're going to a Facebook group, you're trying to look for an agent, most likely you're gonna hear stuff like fast shipping to all these countries, free warehousing, automatic fulfillment, English support, after sales services, QC. I mean, like the thing is, like all that stuff is table stakes. All that stuff is what a supplier should do at the bare minimum. That's not that difficult. But the thing is, like that is not gonna help you scale if that's all they can really offer you. Now, what do you want to look for when you're trying to look for a supplier that can actually scale to 7 figures and beyond? You want to look for, do they actually work with, communicate with, and manage factories directly? I'll tell you guys a little secret. A lot of suppliers, agents out there, they don't even really communicate with their factories that much. They just kind of just order batches. They don't really know how to manage the factories. They're probably too busy with fulfillment, right? That's not good. That's not going to help you scale. That's not going to help you proactively manage your inventory, proactively work out issues with the factories. Do they proactively help you plan your inventory for scaling? That's super important. I mean, once you start scaling to like hundreds or thousands of orders per day, then that's a supply chain game. I mean, that is so important for your supplier to be able to actually work with a factory or multiple factories to make sure that you have enough stock, or you're going to face a lot of issues. And speaking of issues, are they transparent about issues? Are they able to kind of tell you when issues happen? And trust me, issues do happen. Are they able to work with you and resolve these issues, or are they going to just try to keep it on the wraps? Are they going to lie to you and not be transparent about it? Because you definitely don't want that. You want to know about the issues and work with your supplier to fix them. Do they have like a whole structure? Do they have a team? Do they have like a warehouse? Do they have an actual business? I mean, you really don't want to be working with a smaller agent who might just be like 1 or 2 folks in like a garage or something like that. As you scale up, you really need to be working with someone who's a lot more experienced and who has the capacity to actually scale with you. Mistake number 3, not seeing your supplier as if they were a partner or even a member of your team. I mean, think about it. Like in a traditional retail business, like you're gonna have an entire supply chain department. You're gonna have a head of supply chain, VP of supply chain, whatever. Granted, you don't need that these days because you just find great suppliers out there. However, you should see it as the same. I mean, you should really work with your supplier as if they're a part of your business, as if they were a partner. And what that means is that proactively communicate with your supplier. A perfect example is that as you're scaling up, right, you're going 50 orders per day and you all of a sudden scale up to like 1,000 orders per day. It happens all the time. Tell your supplier beforehand, before you even make those plans, because it's unfair to them, to be honest, to all of a sudden get thousands of orders per day when they're preparing for 50 or 100 orders per day, and they have to scramble and they're not going to be able to actually deliver on time, and it's just, not going to work. So talk to your suppliers, especially as you're scaling up or scaling down, so they can work with you to plan your inventory. Listen to them when they tell you there are issues, and appreciate the fact that they're going to be resolving it for you. The worst thing possible is that when there are issues, and there are going to be issues, I mean, trust me, nothing's going to be perfect in the supply chain, is you get angry at them, you just completely leave the supplier. If you do that, then all that's going to happen is that they're just not going to want to tell you about these issues. You're going to just not be transparent about it. You're not going to know about it. You're not going to know how to tell your customers if there's delays. So don't do that. Listen to them and appreciate the fact they're actually being transparent and working with you. And similarly, give them feedback on, what can be improved. I mean, a lot of suppliers, they can be pretty flexible about how they work, how they communicate, the processes. No guarantee, obviously, but if something is not really working in your process, just talk to them about it and see how you can make it easier on both ends. And I think that if you have a good supplier, you might be surprised at what they can actually do for you. Oh, and finally, a small thing, pay them on time, please. You wouldn't hold payment from an employee or your head of supply chain, right? I've seen, quite a few suppliers get totally burned by clients not paying them. So please pay your suppliers. They work really hard for you. They, treat them as if they're part of your team or as a partner. Mistake number 4 is assuming small product quality issues cannot be fixed. This is a very common error that I see, actually, and it's kind of a direct result working with an AliExpress seller or a smaller agent that has no experience actually managing the factories. And they might just tell you, here, we'll just refund it, we'll just resend it, but we don't really know what to do about this product quality issues because that's just how it is, right? That is not always how it is. There's no guarantee here. However, a good supplier who can manage the factories and you have decent volume, they should be able to talk to the factory and figure out how to resolve it for you, maybe for cheap, maybe for free even. That's part of their job. You should see that as part of their job. Now, it's not 100% guaranteed. Sometimes stuff just can't really be fixed. The factories just don't budge. So it's not 100% guaranteed, but we've helped countless clients do the exact same thing. They come to us, they tell us about these product quality issues, they kind of just assume it can't be fixed and just give us a head up, and we're just like, hey, let's just try it out. And a lot of times, we actually work with the factory to actually fix these issues so that they become actually better than the generic versions out there. And you're gonna get a lot of value out there, right? Because you're gonna reduce your returns, reduce your refunds, and ultimately keep more money in your pocket. Mistake number 5 I see is not doubling down on your big winners with branding or product customizations. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes that I actually see that really holds people back from building a more sustainable 7-figures business. Unless you just want to constantly test and kind of scale up generic products, which by the way also works, right? But if you find a winner that is working as generic, double down on it, brand it. And I don't just mean like a simple private label. Think about stuff like custom boxes. Think about stuff like actual product improvements. The battery sucks, everything else is great, for example. Get your supplier to work with the factory to change the battery. All this stuff really helps to make your product, make your brand stand out amongst the competitor, and more likely than not allows you to actually charge more money and keep more money in your pockets because you're gonna have better feedback and less refunds as well. Now, a lot of folks, before they get that experience, they think that this is gonna be too expensive, the MOQ is gonna be too high. Look, it's usually not that expensive, to be honest, depending on what you want to do. You got to do it right, though. You don't want to change everything, right? Just change the stuff that matters and, work with your supplier to tell them that what actually matters. But, it's not going to add that much. And MOQs are maybe 1,000 or 2 units, depending on what you want to do. And the thing is, if you're scaling up hundreds per day, your supplier is buying thousands of units every single time anyway. So why not just go for some product customizations? And that's going to really help you stand out. And that's going to really help you build a more sustainable brand and kind of start getting out of the grind of constantly testing and scaling out products. Although of course, this does go back to the point, like work with a supplier that actually knows how to work with factories and how to manage custom production. Oh, and actually a while back, we actually did create a case study YouTube video, which I'll link below, on basically exactly this. I mean, check out that video, the process that we work with a client, starting with a generic product with issues, building a supply chain for him, and all the way bringing it into a branded, customized product that actually had some changes in the product, and that helped him to scale to 7 figures. So check that out below. That being said, getting to the point where you're kind of seeing it as a real supply chain is definitely going to be a step-by-step process, right? I mean, especially if you're newer. If you're newer, I definitely suggest you really just kind of test out with AliExpress or dropshipping platforms like, CJ dropshipping, eProlo, things like that. They have ready inventory. They're not going to be great to scale up. However, they're fine to test up. Use that time to really validate your process, validate your product, get your marketing chops in, because the reality is that a lot of these suppliers that kind of offer these kind of services that act like a real supply chain, they're going to have MOQs, they're going to have minimum requirements. Ours, for example, is that we only really work with folks who are at 50 orders per day or close to that, or 500 unit commitment. Some are lower out there, but regardless, these kind of suppliers are really only going to be wanting work with you if you have steady volume. We at EcommOps, we actually run a supply chain business in China. We helped countless clients scale up to 7 and even 8 figures. So once you're ready, we're happy to talk to you as well. We'll love to actually scale your business to 7 figures and beyond. Thank you guys for watching. Again, as a reminder, I'm going to slow down on these videos for a couple months. I'm going to be creating more free content in our Facebook group because I just feel like I've been neglecting it a little bit, to be honest. So definitely join our group if you haven't already, and look out for more free content there. And if you're interested in working with us, definitely check us out. I'll link to us below, and we'll be looking forward to speak with you as well. All right, guys. Well, hope you enjoyed that. Again, this is Dayu from EcommOps. See you guys next time.